I mentioned, we're going to go back and forth, and the first part is get informed, get involved.
Yes, okay, I didn't bring any slides for you, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to keep it simple because I know you're probably on information overload. So I'm going to keep this simple regarding getting involved and getting informed. 3 things you need to know. Know your district, know the laws, and know the landscape. Okay, so for knowing your district, 1, you need to know where your board meets. You need to know when they meet. I can tell you, I did a little research before I showed up here because we're good at that at Informed Parents. And I can tell you that in Orange, in Anaheim, in all the Anaheim school districts, in Fullerton, Placentia, Yorba Linda, your school districts have meetings early in May, so you have an opportunity before the end of the school year. They will also meet twice in June. You have more opportunities to go visit and share your opinions. They will meet in July. They will meet in August. So you have a lot of opportunities. Please take the summer to get engaged and form up with other parents, okay? So you need to know your district. You can find all that information very easily on their website. It's right up there on the top bar usually. It says board or Board of Education, and the drop-down menu will have the meeting schedule. Make sure that you attend next month. Attend in May. Go watch, go observe. See who's on that board. Write down their names. Get to know who they are. Find out what they talk like and what kinds of things they're interested in. Get to know them. Know the law. AB 329 you heard about tonight. You learned, this is a great first step for you to get informed and to be up to speed on the law. You probably learned a little more than you wanted to, but also know the framework. This big problem of the overarching indoctrination and sexualization of our children in public schools has 3 parts. It's the law, the curriculum, and the framework. You've gotten sort of an ear and an eye full tonight, so you're up to speed on those things, but take the time to go read and find out more facts. You can find a lot of that on our website, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. So the law, the framework, and the curriculum. So you learned about how to get involved in your district and the law, and now the landscape. What I want you to do is just do what you always do. Use the internet and find us there on Facebook, Informed Parents of California. There's just, you'll connect with people, you'll see more proof, you'll see stories, testimonials, answers to questions, learn what others are doing in their district and what's working, find out about statewide stuff. There's all kinds of things there. Visit our website, www.informedparents.org. I'll tell you it's under construction, but you will see excerpts from the framework there. You will find statewide action alerts, and it'll be the best place for you to stay up to speed with what we're doing. And I want to say one last thing about this section before I go. In Anaheim, Anaheim's one of the worst districts in the state. Okay, we're standing in Anaheim. If you live inside the boundary of Anaheim, please, please, please go visit our table after we're done here. Sign up, please. We need you. We need you to show up at those board meetings. We need you to fight for those kids, stand with those parents, and let's turn this around.
Okay, this next one seems pretty obvious, but it can be very difficult to do, particularly on this subject. But it's going to be very important for you to actually query, talk to your children about what they're learning on this subject. This is where tact is called for. You're going to have to really think through how you're going to ask questions. You don't want to be an interrogator. And it's particularly going to be difficult when your kids are a little bit older, when they get into middle school and high school. Because you know the way they are, they just want to clam up, they know everything, they don't need to be told by mom and dad. So if ever there were a reason to try to make a relationship with your children even closer, this law provides you with that impetus and that motivation. You need to talk to your children. And if and when they open up about what they're hearing in school and what they're learning, and if you can get samples actually from the books and the materials that they're receiving, all the better. You should document those. Keep a record of it. Date stamp it. Put in as much detail as you can. There may be a time when you will actually have reason to use that information, but talk to your kids.
On On the next point about inspecting the curriculum, Stephanie did an amazing job of giving you the overview of what's in some of those curriculum, and she even told you where they're being used. But I'm going to give you some specific tips on how you can find out for yourself. We call ourselves informed parents because we want you to be an informed parent. Please don't take our word for it. Call your school districts. If you're a grandparent, please call the school districts that your grandchildren are in. Your kids probably are busy and they need your help. Here are some tips that you can use in order to find out the truth about what's going on. And I'm going to tell you, in our experience, in the experience of a lot of thousands of other informed parents, school districts are not being honest with you about what's going on in the school. The curriculum the curriculum director should know. So you want to call the school district and you do want to speak to the person who's in charge of curriculum and instruction. In a very large school district like Anaheim, you're going to be talking to different people at different district offices, okay? And in very large school districts like Los Angeles, you might also have that broken down by subject area. So you want to make sure that you speak to the director of curriculum and instruction, and you want to ask a very specific question. And I'll tell you what the question is and why. I'll start with the why. That framework that you saw there is not officially adopted. So it's a teaching guidance. They may or may not choose to teach according to that framework. We don't know yet because it's not officially adopted. The curriculum, they may not use all the pages of it, and right now, the framework's supposed to be out before the curriculum providers make the books, right? So right now, we have a lot of supplemental material. So if you go and you say, what curriculum are you using? They may say, none. You know why? Because they didn't have to go through the adoption process and they didn't actually buy anything. A lot of these are free resources. So if you're calling the district, you should ask this question. What specifically are you using to comply with the California Healthy Youth Act? Or what materials are you using to teach HIV, AIDS, STD, STI awareness and pregnancy prevention? Use the words that come out of the law. That's what they're complying with. Schedule a time. Oh yeah, so I said don't use the word curriculum. Schedule a time to go inspect that curriculum. But set aside a few hours. Remember, most of these schools are providing 10 hours of instruction. It's going to take you a little while to get through this. Do take a cell phone. Do take photos of the pages, the ones that you find most problematic. They can't tell you no. You're not using it for commercial purposes. You can take pictures. And if they won't allow you to take pictures, make sure you get the name and rank and serial number of the person who told you couldn't, and ask for them to make copies. I will warn you, if they make the copies, they could charge you up to 10 cents each. You could bring your own ream of paper and they can't charge you anything. Do submit your opt-out letters. We're so clever. Do submit your opt-out letters. Don't expect them to abide by them. Remind them that you have an opt-out letter in force. And do ask for a full board opt-out policy, or one that will comply with the very minimum standards so that this will not be taught in the elementary grades.
And regarding opt-out, as George was mentioning earlier, you do have that right as a parent. But it's an affirmative right. You need to exercise it. Your children will not be opted out of this curriculum unless each one of you take action. You have to notify the school. And we recommend that you notify both the school district and the school where your child attends. It can be the same letter. You write one to one and you copy the principal of the other. It'll usually go to the assistant principal. The best time to do it is at the beginning of the school year or when you enroll your student into class. We actually have, I think we have it on the slide. Yes, we have instructions on how to use the letter that we have prepared. There are examples of them back at the desk, the Salt and Light desk near the Solid Rock Cafe, and an example of the letter itself. We recommend also that you send it a certified letter so that you have a record that it was actually delivered. So if the school district says, well, we never got your letter, then they really don't have any excuse. So, but there's something that you really need to be cognizant of. You can only opt your children out of those health education teachings that are really talking about sexuality combined with human anatomy. As George discussed earlier, any classes on, or any subject matter on sexual orientation, gender identity, gender fluidity, those can be taught in a range of subjects, including history, anthropology, social science, and you will not be able to opt your children out of that teaching. And that's the reason I mentioned before, there are really no great options to this program. But at least you should strongly consider yourself to avail yourself of the options that you do have. And by the way, yeah, here's a sample of the letter that's back at the back table. Well, I'll think of it later. I'll cover it.
Okay, confronting the CTA, the PTA, etc. You may have heard that the PTA recently came out and opposed a bill that intends to provide more clarity and transparency in sex ed for children. It's a proposed bill right now, and it'll be introduced in January. And the California PTA came out and they opposed the bill because it called for an active opt-in, right? That means if you don't sign the paper, your child isn't allowed into the class for kindergarten through 6th grade. And the PTA doesn't stand with you parents. No. Don't play their games when they do the whole PTA race, you know, and all the kids have to get their whole class to get their parents to join the PTA and send in their dues. Don't do it, and tell them why. You have an option. The PTO, Parent-Teacher Organization, is local only, and you can defund that cycle of dysfunction. Also, the California Teachers Association. Most teachers don't know that their dues are being used to promote this agenda and these laws. Please talk to your teacher friends. Tell them that you've heard about this. It's a great friend of ours, Rebecca Friedrich. She has 4 kids in country. Teachers can go there and get information about how they can opt out of unions and defund that big giant cycle of dysfunction. So we encourage teachers to do that. We stand with them, and we don't want them bullied when they do it. We need teachers to band together and en masse take the funding, the money, and the muscle out of the CTA, who is using the teacher's image as a sweet little front, the apple pie, and all of that, to promote this garbage to our kids. So the last thing I want to mention is the GSA clubs. There are so many before school, after school, lunchtime clubs. Some of them even have names like We the People. You think they're talking about civics, but they're not. They're actually talking about crazy stuff like what you heard in that book that Stephanie shared. Sexual fetishes, really? At lunchtime with high school kids. They're supposed to be student-run clubs, but some we know of are actually led by adults. This is really dangerous. Please tell your children, especially your girls, not to get sucked in. Remember that nice little heart we know they have. We don't want to be mean to anybody. This is not about people. This is about a policy of sexualizing and indoctrinating our kids, and we will have none of it.
So Gallup issues this reality. It's a sad reality, but it happens to be true, that religious people tend to be not really consistent in their patterns of voting. In fact, he said that evangelicals, only half of them are registered to vote at any particular time, and only half of those vote in any particular election, such that only 25% of the Christian community is out there voting. There will never be change unless you exercise your civic rights. So if you are not registered to vote, you must do that as soon as possible. And if you've changed your domicile, if you've moved from one area to another, don't assume that your registration is still active. Change your registration. It's so easy to do. You can just get online, go to the State Secretary of California, and register. If you want to do it tonight, we're going to have registration forms out of the Salt and Light booth. Tip O'Neill, a long time ago, said that all politics is local. And it's true. If we really want to affect change in California and here in Orange County, you are going to have to get involved. So you should strongly consider running for PTO or even school board, a member of the school board in your local district. Yes, it's work. Yes, it will take sacrifice, but it will give you a seat at the decision-making table. So I strongly encourage you, pray about it, think about it, and if you have any inclination at all to get involved, that would be a wonderful way to make a very tangible change here in Orange County. There are 2 resources. By the way, the website that you went to, protectourkidsnow.org, is now a live website. So you no longer go there to register. Basically all the information that you've heard tonight will be on that website, including links to how to run for school board. There's 2 organizations, the California School Board Association, I think I have a slide on this one. Yes, and the Fair Political Practices Commission, that if you want to read how to run for a school district board member, these are the places to go to learn about it.
This is where the activist in me gets really excited. Well, the slide says sit out, but really there's so much activity that we could do at a statewide level and at a local level that really there's not enough time to talk about all of that. But I will tell you this, there are many, many things we can do. We can write letters, we can make phone calls, we can sit out, pull our kids out of school. We could, we have rallies. We've been rallying at the Capitol. We go and we make public comment at state education meetings. There's so many ways to be active and engaged in a bigger, more meaningful way that I would just say, you know, follow us, follow us. We'll give you more opportunities than you know what to do with. Visit us outside at the table out there. Pick up a flyer on some of our upcoming activities. We have 2 major events that we're doing, good activist ones during May. So please come and join us, you know, stand out on sidewalks or in front of the Capitol building or whatever it is you can do and be present with us. Just know that we can't make this impact without a whole lot of people involved. When I hear what was presented in those slides, I can't even sit still. I've heard it so many times, I should be numb to it, but I can't be numb to it. It's so wrong. We have to take to the streets. There may come a time where we need to take part in civil disobedience. That time may come. Please stay tuned, because when it does, we need you there with us.
Many people have asked us, well, do you have an overall strategy for dealing with comprehensive sexuality education and AB 329? I can share with you tonight that, as is obvious, that there are many grassroots organizations who are talking to one another. And I think you can expect to hear over the course of time some plans to hopefully remedy this law once and for all. But in the meantime, we need to do what we can to support legislation that can make a difference in any way it can. And one of those bills is a Senate Bill 673. I don't know how many have heard about it, but this is sponsored by State Senator Mike Morell out of District 23 and co-sponsored by Ling Chang in the 29th District. And this bill would essentially do 2 things. There are other features of the bill, but essentially it would require opt-in of this curriculum for parents below 7. So you would have to actually opt into the program rather than giving the school notice that you're opting out of the program. And perhaps just as importantly, to see the curriculum that's being used, you will not have to call your school district or your principal and make an appointment and hope that they actually show you the curriculum. No, the curriculum will be posted on a website that you can look at online. Unfortunately, the bill's been tabled temporarily, but there's a positive side to that as well. It gives the sponsors more time to get parental support for that bill. So again, a link to Senate Bill 673 is on our website. You can take a look at it. You can read the law. You can find out what the status of the bill is. But I encourage you to keep track of this bill in the future. Did I step on your toes? I guess this is mine too. Okay, all right, well, I'll just keep going. parents have a fundamental right to avoid the public school, if that's what you choose to do. The fundamental theory of liberty upon which all governments in this union repose excludes any general power of the state to standardize its children by forcing them to accept instruction from public teachers only. The child is not the mere creature of the state. Those are powerful words. You need to remind yourself of that. But if you take your children out of the public school system, there is a cost to it. And I mean a direct financial cost. It's not inexpensive. The average private school cost, according to privateschoolreview.com, is about $11,000 a year for elementary school. This is California-wide, and $19,000 for high school. I mean, that used to fund a college education 15 years ago. But these are just the averages. Just as all politics is local, all private schools are local as well. And I just took a look at private schools within a 5-mile radius of the zip code of this church, and I found 45 private elementary schools within 5 miles, 9 high schools, and the cost was much more flexible. I think the average cost for the private school for elementary school is about $6,000 a year. So that's becoming much more affordable. So be encouraged to take a close look at this. And are we done here? Let's see. I think that's it for our session. So,
It is. Can I make one note
Yeah,
about
please.
the private schools? I just want to say one thing, and that is, I have a vision for a day when the church becomes the answer to this problem. Yep. So if you know a church with a school, or you know somebody who loves education and wants to see something really amazing happen here, if you know somebody who has a heart for school choice and they really want to see it happen for real, not instead of putting it into politicians' coffers to run for offices, but to actually put children with hearts and souls into schools that will keep them safe, talk to me afterwards.
thank you, Eileen.